Welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast, where today's thought leaders discuss how they're using the latest social media strategies and technologies in marketing, sales, customer service, and HR. Get ready to be inspired as our guests contribute to your digital transformation through their stories, knowledge, and insights into what works in today's digitally connected world. And now, here's Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast.
Hey there, welcome to episode 195. I'm Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso, and your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. Hey, thanks for listening. On this episode, I am excited to bring you my conversation with Andy Malinoski. Andy is Manager of Corporate Communications and Government Relations at Frontier Communications. On this episode, you are going to hear how Frontier Communications, which is a U.S. provider of residential and commercial broadband, video, voice, wireless internet data access, and bundled service offerings, is empowering their employees to be brand ambassadors in the face of 4 unique types of business challenges. Now, before we get to my conversation with Andy Malinoski, I want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Lithium Technologies. In Social Business Journal, Volume 10, Lithium's Senior Vice President of Marketing, Dale Hall, drops a ton of wisdom around the top 5 most influential topics in B2B marketing. Get your copy of this journal at socialbusinessengine.com. Just click on the Up Close On Demand button, sponsored by Lithium Technologies. And now, here's my conversation with Andy Malinoski. Andy, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Bernie, thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your listeners about Frontier Communications.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into, let's start with a little elaboration on specifically your role at Frontier Communications, and maybe elaborate a little bit on the company as well.
Sure. Thank you. My job, my role, my purpose at Frontier is to connect the media, elected officials, constituents, business leaders, and others with information about our company, our products, and our services. My official role is the Manager of Communications and Governmental Relations for the Northeast part of our country.
Okay, terrific. And Frontier Communications is sort of a localized provider of television, internet. Do I have that right?
Yes, you do. Actually, in 29 states, we have grown very quickly over the past couple of years, providing phone service, broadband, commercial business services, and a lot of investment in rural America, as well as 4 of the largest metropolitan areas in the country.
Okay, fantastic. So we are here to talk about how you at Frontier Communications are mobilizing employees as brand advocates in the face of business challenges. Before we get into that, I just want to point out the significance of that, Andy, for my listener, because anyone that's listened to this podcast for any period of time has heard us talk about employee advocacy in the context of promoting the brand, expanding the brand awareness, even generating leads. But in our conversation, we're going to talk about empowering employees as brand advocates in the face of business challenges. And I know that you are prepared to talk about some specific types of business challenges. So why don't you begin with the first one?
Sure. Thank you, Bernie. We wanted to talk today about operational challenges that our company has gone through and ways to efficiently and effectively communicate to our residential and our business customers when there have honestly been problems or when there have been things that have gone wrong with our network that have caused us to have to recover, repair, and move forward and continue to invest in and improve our network. Because of, as you have mentioned, employee advocacy creates this great opportunity for our employees to create reach and frequency with messages that they share through their personal networks. We have tried to operationalize them and provide them content that when things have changed and when things have been improved or invested in, they have delivered that message to their localized contacts and their social media networks. For instance, when we've invested millions of dollars across the country to build out infrastructure to reach new areas or to provide additional content or services or different types of services on the business side, our employees have been able to do that and help educate folks and inform them more so about the good work that we've done in their communities.
Now, what type of employees are you arming with content and messaging? Does it vary by role? Is it all employees, or is it certain roles and functions?
This has been a really organic process for us at Frontier, where we did start on the commercial business side, but I found that people that are good at creating offline relationships, individuals that have a large social network in terms of their connections in the community because of the activities they do. Just for example, I volunteer and coach a local basketball league that has 170 players. I meet and talk with a lot of people, and we have the ability to share information about our businesses at that. When they all ask questions to me about things that have happened or technology issues, and I'll ask them legal questions. It's those types of people that have an affinity, in my opinion, to build their community presence, also are really good at transitioning that online and doing the same thing for the companies that they work for.
So what I hear you saying then, it's really not limited to role and function. In other words, it's not just customer service people or salespeople.
It is open to all employees. If they want to participate in our employee advocacy program, all they have to simply do is send me an email. We enroll them. We go through some training, some understanding of how the process works, and they go about their way and being proud about what they do for our company and connecting people to information that changes their lives.
We were just discussing operational challenges, right? I mean, this episode is focused on empowering brand advocates, employees as brand advocates in the face of business challenges. And the first one is operational. So do you put out specific content that says this is related to operational, or how do you communicate to the employees that the content or messaging pertains to a specific business challenge?
Well, during the program, I'll do this in two phases. One, we make specific content to employees available through different streams in an application that allows them to publish directly to their multiple social media accounts. For example, maybe the best example would be in disaster recovery. Obviously, the whole country and areas of our country were affected by hurricanes. Very quickly, we developed landing pages for our customers to go to communicate with us about outages and damage and things that they needed to know, and other resources in their community that we could bond together. Our employees were affected as well as the community that we serve, and we could enable the employees to publish tweets and LinkedIn posts and Facebook posts about helpful information on how to help, again, recover from the disaster that just happened in our very localized communities when we were hit by the hurricanes. So yes, we would create landing pages. We would create updates on service improvements and changes that had happened that the employee would have access to in that content aggregator to simply push a button and schedule it to go out to their network on that very localized level.
Okay, fantastic. And then how do you integrate, since your role is communications, how do you integrate questions that come in from employees? Maybe the questions that they have or questions that they get from the community and customers, and they may not have the answers. So how does that come into play?
At Frontier, we have a specialized group that does monitor social media and our social media channels and responds to and engages with and tries to get specific actionable information from customers that comment on our pages. If you go to Frontier on Facebook, there's a team of sales folks, just like you would have a phone room that would take calls, or a chat group that would do the chat, direct chatting with customers. And what I see that as is we've had to adapt to the least path of resistance for a customer to communicate with us, whether it be by chat, by email, by telephone, or by posting on social sites. And we've been recognized by receiving certain awards that we do have a very high response rate, and we kind of triage those complaints and address those service concerns as fast as we can.
Well, being in the business that you're in, providing phone and bandwidth services to residential as well as commercial. Certainly, I can see the first two business challenges being fairly commonplace, Andy, right? Operational, where, things can go wrong. That happens. And then disasters like hurricanes. So two, fairly common business challenges. I know you wanted to talk about a third one as well. So you want to get to that one?
Yeah, as a business to business salesperson, someone who, our role is providing a connection has become a commodity. So from the commercial business standpoint that makes up about half of our company's annualized revenue, it's important that we migrate to really where customers are going. Just like they did on the residential side, what I didn't say, and I should have, is that we publish information about how to connect your home, how to use technology to make your life easier at home, how to protect the data that you have as a customer, as a person. Well, we also do those types of things on the commercial side, where we are partnering with companies that provide disaster recovery services, that provide site monitoring systems, that provide search engine optimization for small businesses to help them manage their online presence, to help generate content for them to be able to promote themselves, to manage their online comments, and also to implement unified communication solutions. So the business obstacle, the challenge that you see when you're just selling the commodity of a connection is how can you empower and enhance the personal brand of that person that is in the local market, interacting in a specific geographic area with their business community, and how they can actually solve problems for that company or that small business or that enterprise business like a healthcare facility or a bank that can really protect and help them be successful and efficiently and effectively implement technology into their business. We're just not selling a connection anymore. If our folks, they won't last that way. Our business partners need solutions, and that's what our people are delivering.
Yeah, and of course, every industry is very competitive. I can't think of an industry these days that isn't competitive. But thinking of your industry, I know that there is a lot of competition among the local providers, and it's not like there's a lot of them, right? In most markets, there might be 2, 3, 4, whatever the number is, but it's not like 20, right? But it's nonetheless fiercely competitive. So, Annie, can you elaborate a little bit on how you're empowering the personal brand of the local people so that they can communicate effectively, message effectively, and communicate your value proposition at Frontier Communications?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, it's been an organic process. We spend a great deal of time having our business-to-business sales folks read and understand the industries and the solutions that they are providing, get certified, and be able to represent those products effectively, not just say, I have a disaster recovery service. They need to understand and be able to communicate with a client or a potential business person, partner, what the real challenges they face and the risks they are up against if they don't have these types of services in place. So I believe what makes us different is the time we're taking by industry to be better consultative solutions providers that utilize that connection that connects that business to their customers and the rest of the world.
Okay, and the local Frontier Communications employee sounds like they're getting training. And then are they also accessing content through your technology platform, your content hub, so to speak?
Yes, they are. It's segmented by industry and vertical, such as insurance, auto dealerships, the financial industry, the healthcare industry, the various types of products and services that we deliver that help protect and help keep those businesses up and running. Part of the challenges in the content is designed to not only educate and inform our potential customers and our current customers, but our employees as well.
Excellent. And do you find that the employees that are accessing this content, using this content, do you get feedback from them to help you sort of improve it? Do they say, hey, this content was useful, but this content was not. I really need more content about X, Y, and Z. Do you get that kind of feedback?
Yeah, the key word, and you've talked about this in many of your episodes before, but the obstacle and the challenge we all face is engagement. And there's two ways to go about that. One are the one-offs, like you just mentioned, Andy. I'd love to have more content on this and this, but I can also track through the aggregation platform that we use, the interaction with the content that our employees are publishing. And so I track our engagement rate daily. The content that our employees are sharing is today in the 60 to 70% engaged with. That means someone liked, commented, or shared the information that we have put out there. So I look at our role as curators in providing that content to, whether it be to educate folks about the operational challenge we had, or the disaster relief challenge we had, or the commercial B2B challenge we have of overcoming the idea of being a commodity, that if that content is being engaged, clicked through, and read and consumed, I look at us like a newspaper editor would have been in the 1950s. The filters on content are kind of gone, and people rely on resources and their connections that they trust. So, if all of our employees were sharing everything every day and no one was clicking through it or engaging with it, I know we weren't doing our job. But by industry and by vertical and by section of the types of content we're sharing, the engagement rate, I also know a lot of the traffic, some of the traffic, we have our own podcasts that when people go to them, the time on site through those links is dramatically higher than traditional web traffic. So that I know that people are at least giving the podcasts that are there an opportunity they're listening to them. They're spending time on site, consuming that content. And if it wasn't any good, we know they would leave. So our content marketing strategy for each of those three areas is important as well, in the way that you're helping your employees share information that has an objective, that is informative, and isn't puffery, honestly. It isn't the best thing. This is how this works. This is the risk that you're going to mitigate by using these services, or these are the things that we've improved and fixed to overcome the business obstacle that we had yesterday and how we're moving forward.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned that you're curators of content. So can I unpack that a little bit, or ask you to unpack that a little bit? Does that mean that you're curating content from external sources, just relevant sources, whether it's weather or traffic or whatever the topic might be? Is that what you mean by that?
You would be surprised the kind of content that we're making available for our employees to share, because the last thing we want to be seen as is a commercial for Frontier or our partners. The whole idea of employee advocacy and helping our employees promote information that helps us overcome business obstacles is that the content they share is at least considered by their audience. So sometimes that information is in the form of thought leadership about how to be a better leader, be a better person, be a better business person, be a better salesperson. And other times it would be about how markets work. For example, why our employees should understand why Amazon bought Whole Foods and why Google has a partnership with Walmart, so that they can understand the dynamics of markets, so that they can help the businesses that they are trying to connect to the rest of the world thrive and use technology to be successful. And sometimes it's general interest or local community information that we target by state and by city that is made available to employees, say in the Tampa area or in the Fort Worth area or in the Long Beach area, that has to do with their local communities. We encourage our employees to share information that people want to read. And then when they talk about Frontier and the informative, educational, or solutions content that we're providing, that will be engaged with and consumed and hopefully help their business or their home.
Excellent. Makes a whole lot of sense, right? I mean, we want content that is actually useful and relevant to us and helpful to us, so it makes a lot of sense. The last topic that we had prepared to discuss from a business challenge standpoint is one that pretty much all companies face this challenge, and that's recruiting. So you want to talk about how you're dealing with that business challenge in the context of your employee advocacy program.
As competitive as the technology business is, and as quickly as our company has grown, of course, we have the operational challenge of staffing, especially in terms of revenue generating positions. What we have found and what I have found is that I think there was a psychographic company before that said birds of a feather flock together. I'm connected to people like me in the media world. Sometimes the best public relations, marketing, and advertising person, maybe a colleague that I have a really strong relationship on social media, if our company has that need, when I should promote that opportunity to attract talent and skill the frontier that can help our customers. So we are enabling our employees throughout the country the ability to promote open positions, and we're gaining reach, frequency, and engagement by making those like just what you would normally do. Here's the site to go to apply for this position, but our employees are helping promote the open career opportunities we have at Frontier Communications.
Excellent. Makes a lot of sense. Do you see that as there's any one area of the company, open positions, that gets promoted more than others, whether it's customer service, sales, tech support, whatever?
It's a business commercial sales, especially in the area of territory managers and above that.
Okay, fantastic. Maybe one of my listeners will take note of that and go visit your website, Andy. You never know.
Or you can just search hashtag FTR opportunity.
Andy, we are at a point in the podcast episode where I am going to summarize the key points that we discussed, and then I'm going to ask you to either fill in any holes or maybe elaborate on something that I jog your memory on. And then we'll ask you to just give us some contact information, and then we'll wrap up this episode. So we began our conversation with an introduction to your role at Frontier Communications. You're manager of corporate communications and government relations, and you work with media, elected officials, business leaders, and really just helping everybody across the 29 states that Frontier Communications delivers phone, broadband, and internet services, even across rural America. And we really we're focused on, in this podcast episode, discussing how employees are empowered to be brand advocates in the face of business challenges. And we covered 4 business challenges. First one we discussed was operational, where, hey, things can go wrong. Just, problems can happen. Repairs are needed, etc. And so it's really about operationalizing content for localized messaging and empowering employees to access that content and access the messaging quickly, easily, so that they know exactly how to deal with customers at the local level when there's operational issues that need to be addressed. The second challenge we discussed was disasters, disaster recovery, things like hurricanes, and obviously that can have outages and damages. So again, enabling employees to communicate, not only providing the content and the messaging, but even having landing pages that are up to date, with content, and providing, up to date information that just makes it real easy for them and for customers to gain the information that they need. Third business challenge we discussed was commoditization. And that is, as you said, providing a connection is a commodity. So you're focused on really enabling the employee to deliver information, content that really helps them understand how to connect their home, how to connect their business. And so they have to understand, the employees have to understand what solutions they're providing at a detailed level, and then be able to provide information in a consultative way. You've got segments that are by vertical industry, and you're really focused on helping employees educate customers, really helping businesses, especially on the B2B side, really, migrate to more of a solution rather than just a connection. And again, empowering the personal brand of the local people in the local community. And then you talked about how you're tracking that engagement from employees. You said you've got a 60% plus engagement rate, and that time on site from content specifically, you said your podcast is very high, and it's fantastic. I didn't know, by the way, you had a podcast, so I'm going to go check that out. And then the fourth business challenge was really around thought leadership. And that is just empowering employees to deliver content that people want to consume to help you differentiate in the marketplace. And so that can run the gamut from professional development to new technologies, and really just any kind of content that's just helpful to the consumer of that content. And actually, I'm going to correct myself. The fourth challenge that we discussed is that the thought leadership was really in the context of your commoditization. So, and then the fourth one that we discussed was recruiting, that business challenge, which is recruiting talent. And that's enabling employees to promote open positions. And you said that the highest frequency of that is on the B2B commercial side. So is there anything, Andy, that you would like to elaborate on from my summary?
Bernie, no, I just appreciate the opportunity to speak and learn with you today. Thank you for giving Frontier and myself the opportunity to talk about the importance of employee advocacy and the fact that it can be integrated to solve and overcome business obstacles in basically any siloed part of your organization. And I say that in the traditional way that if you have an HR issue in terms of recruiting, overcoming communication challenges and the way that marketing dollars need to be spent more and more efficiently so that you reach more people more often, and building trust with our communities and enabling our employees to be proud about what they do, the services and solutions that they provide, and to let folks know that when things are fixed and how they work, and that there's different products and services available than there were, a week to a year to 5 years ago. The world's changing, and that migration to mobile and migration to social, if we don't go there, it's going to be awful quiet. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it today. So thank you.
Absolutely. And, I've long said that the most complex thing that we do as human beings is communicate. And I commend you for making that your profession, because you're dealing with that complexity every day, all day. So I have tremendous respect for what you do. And so thank you for coming on the Social Business Engine podcast, Andy, and sharing your story at Frontier Communications. Where would you like to send my listener online to connect with you and learn more about what you've got going on at Frontier?
Very simply, just go to frontier.com, and you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn or at Andy Malinoski on Twitter, AndyMalinoski.
Fantastic. We will link that up in our show notes page. My listener knows that, so make sure you just visit either Vengreso.com or socialbusinessengine.com. We've got it at both places, so we will link that all up there. Andy, thank you so much for joining me here today on this episode.
Great. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Andy Malinoski, Manager of Corporate Communications and Government Relations at Frontier Communications. This has been episode 195, titled Mobilizing Employees at Frontier Communications as Brand Advocates in the Face of Business Challenges. Now, my one big takeaway to share with you about my conversation with Andy Malinoski is this. Every brand in every industry faces business challenges. So empowering employees to be effective brand ambassadors, to be the brand in the face of challenges, is not only smart business, but as Andy says, it's really not an option, because we live in the connected age. People connect with people, not with logos. A logo is never going to communicate as effectively as people can, provided that a brand's people are trained and provided the content and the tools to communicate and engage, as we heard from Andy and how they're doing it at Frontier Communications. So, hey, what is your takeaway from my conversation with Andy Malinoski? Leave your comments in the show notes at Vengreso.com. Just visit the podcast section, go to episode 195, and drop your comments there. Well, hey, this episode is sponsored by Lithium Technologies. In Social Business Journal, Volume 10, Lithium's Senior Vice President of Marketing, Dale Hall, drops a ton of wisdom around the top 5 most influential topics in B2B marketing. You can get your copy of this journal at socialbusinessengine.com. Just click on the Up Close On Demand button, sponsored by Lithium Technologies. And of course, we will link this up in our show notes page at Vengreso.com. While you're there, be sure, if you're not already, get subscribed to get the Social Business Engine podcast delivered to your inbox each and every week. And if you're in sales or you know someone in sales, be sure to subscribe to get my partners podcast, Selling with Social, hosted by Vengreso's CEO, Mario Martinez Jr. Well, hey, that is a wrap for episode 195. I want to thank my guest once again, Andy Malinoski, Manager of Corporate Communications and Government Relations at Frontier Communications. This is Bernie Borges, CMO of Vengreso, signing off for now and wishing you continued success on your social business journey.
Thank you for listening to the Social Business Engine podcast. Be sure to tune in again next week to reconnect with Bernie Borges for more insights, inspiration, and practical advice on social business. Visit socialbusinessengine.com to catch even more content on social strategy that will rock your business and your career.